Hey folks, good morning. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Advisory. As I said at the end of yesterday's video, today we're going to go over a serious topic, dating violence and abuse. It's unfortunate that we have to go over this at all, and I know that it's going to be uncomfortable for some of us to hear, but the information in this presentation could be vital to getting you or someone you know and love out of an abusive situation. So thank you in advance for listening carefully to the following presentation. If you'd like to see the slides for this presentation, they're going to be on Longhorn Country, and they are also en español también. And the entire presentation is interactive, filled with links of different resources that I'll be showing some of. But we're going to be going over these 4 topics today. Number 1, I'm going to read you what is called the Dating Bill of Rights, which is a list of I statements that apply to everyone in a relationship. We're going to talk about unhealthy relationships versus abusive relationships. We're going to talk about the different types of abuse and what you can do about it, whether you are an abuser, being abused, or notice that someone is being abused. And here are what is called the Dating Bill of Rights. It's a list of I statements. The Bill of Rights for the U.S. Constitution tells somebody what they have explicit rights to. And this is no different. I have the right to be in a healthy relationship, to be treated with respect as an equal, to say no and to be heard, to express my own opinions, to have private time in my own space, to have friends, interests, and a life of my own, to ask others for help if I need it, to live a violence-free life that is free of threats, to change my mind, to have my needs considered as much as my partner's, and finally, I have the right to end a relationship without being harassed, threatened, or made to feel guilty. Anytime you're wondering, am I in an abusive situation, or is this a good, healthy situation for me? Think about these statements, because any sort of unhealthy or abusive behavior should not be made to feel normal. And so anytime that's happening, you can go to these statements and you can say, wait, no, I do deserve to be heard. I do deserve to have friends or an interests or a life of my own. These statements can be an anchor for you when you are in a dating relationship to kind of hold on to yourself and remember who you are and what your rights are. Last month in February, we talked about the differences between a healthy and unhealthy relationship. And I just want to go over those differences one more time. A healthy relationship means that both you and the other person are communicating openly, respectful towards one another, trusting of one another, honest with each other, and equal. And you both get to enjoy your personal time. An unhealthy relationship may be happening if one or both people are not communicating or communicating harshly, if the people are disrespectful towards one another, if they don't trust each other because they're not honest with each other, if one person is trying to take control over the relationship without considering the other person, and if you only spend time with your partner. Those are signs that things might be unhealthy. Now, not everybody is going to be all healthy all the time. There may be some parts of your relationship where you may have to deal with not communicating well or may have to deal with trust issues or whatever. And those issues can usually be talked about and resolved. But there is a pretty hard and fast line between what is unhealthy and what is downright abusive. Abuse is occurring in a relationship when one partner communicates in a way that is hurtful, threatening, insulting, or demeaning, disrespects the feelings, thoughts, decisions, opinions, or the physical safety of the other person, physically hurts or injures the other partner by hitting, slapping, choking, pushing, or shoving, blames the other partner for their own harmful actions, makes excuses for abusive actions, and or minimizes the abusive behavior. Basically saying, it's no big deal, right? Why are you so upset? Controls or isolates the other partner by telling them what to wear, who they can hang out with, where they can go, and or what they can do. Or pressures or forces the other partner to do things they don't want to do. Threatens, hurts, or blackmails their partner if they resist or say no. And I hope you can see the very stark difference from where something goes from an unhealthy situation to abuse. And there are different types of abuse as well. It's not always clear sometimes what is and is not abuse. So you have to know the different things that could be abusive. These are all the different types of ways that abuse could be happening. Abuse could be physical, where there is assault, like punching, kicking, slapping, biting, or choking. There's preventing of eating or sleeping. Harm to children or pets of somebody that you're in a relationship with, driving recklessly when you are in the car, preventing you from leaving somewhere whenever you feel unsafe, throwing objects, and anything that can bring physical harm or a feeling of physical unsafety. And while physical abuse might be the easiest to spot, there are of course other types, such as emotional or verbal abuse. Calling you names, insulting, or constantly criticizing you, acting jealous or possessive, or refusing to trust you, isolating you from family, friends, or others, attempting to control your appearance, like what you look like, how you dress, humiliating you in any way, blaming you for their abusive behaviors, or gaslighting you by pretending not to understand or refusing to listen. There's also, of course, sexual abuse and sexual coercion. Sexual abuse looks like forcing or manipulating you into having sex or crossing a physical boundary that you don't want to cross, ignoring your feelings regarding sex, or insulting you in sexual ways, or calling you explicit names. Coercion, which is just a fancy word for really trying to get somebody to do something for you, may include these: implying that you owe them something sexually, or giving you drugs or alcohol to loosen your inhibitions, or continuing to pressure you after you say no. You may have heard this phrase, but no does in fact mean no the first time, and asking a million times until the person is finally so worn down into saying yes is not consent. That is coercion. And in today's brave new world, there is also digital abuse, which can involve the following: telling you who you can or can't follow or be friends with on social media, sending negative or threatening DMs, texts, or other messages, insulting you or humiliating you with posts online, constantly texting or making you feel like you can't be separated from your phone because they might send a text and get mad if you don't respond, looking through your phone or checking up on your pictures, texts, or other social media records, using any type of technology to monitor or track your activities, stealing or insisting on being given all your passwords, or sending, requesting, or pressuring you to send unwanted, explicit photos or videos, sexts, or otherwise compromising messages. That last one is of particular importance, all right? Sending sexual pictures or messages over the phone is always a bad idea. Not only do you give somebody a permanent record of a compromising picture or message that you may have sent, but it is also potentially very illegal. If you click on this link on the slideshow, you'll be sent to this page. These are the sexting laws in Texas. A person commits this offense if they knowingly or intentionally possesses or knowing or intentionally accesses with intent to view visual material that visually depicts a child younger than 18 years of age at the time the image of the child was made who is engaging in sexual conduct. Sexting is a misdemeanor with the first offense, but subsequent offenses may also be misdemeanors with greater penalties. But it also gets into the ideas of revenge porn, which is the unlawful disclosure or promotion of intimate visual material, which essentially means that if you send intimate photos with a relationship that goes poorly, and then they post that online or send that to others, that is against the law as well. And it goes into further detail on this page, but essentially sexting when you are under the age of 18 amounts to the possession and distribution of child pornography. It's a serious thing. It could very easily come back to bite you in several ways down the line. So my strong suggestion is to just stay away from all of that. Don't do it. There are three main roles in an abusive situation. You have the first person, of course, the abuser, and this is the person who physically, sexually, verbally, emotionally, or digitally hurts or attempts to control another in a relationship. You also, of course, have the target or the victim, who is a person who is subjected to controlling behavior or who is hurt physically, sexually, verbally, or emotionally by another in a relationship. But there is also a third role, which is that of the bystander. This is anyone who is aware or suspects that someone is being abused in a relationship. The bystander may become aware of the abuse through the abuser's or the target's actions or words. So these are like friends of a person who might be in an abusive situation as the abuser or the target that notices something is not right. So we know all of the different types of abuse, what it may look like, what the roles are. Now we got to figure out what we can actually do about it. And that depends on which of those three roles you find yourself in. You might be listening to me right now and you might be thinking, man, am I an abusive person? Am I being abusive right now to my partner or to whoever I'm in a relationship with? If you're reflecting on yourself and you think that you might be abusive, that doesn't discount you as a person, but it does mean that you have some work to do. The first step is to see and to notice that there is a problem and accept that there is a problem with your behavior. Acknowledge which of those behaviors are causing the problem. Set goals for behaviors that you want to stop doing and behaviors that you want to start doing. Create a plan to reach those goals and put in effort to reach those goals. And review the evidence of change and improvement over time yourself. And I should note that if you are an abuser in a situation, then this is a journey that only you can really go on with therapy, with work, with personal reflection. This is not something that you maybe slap a Band-Aid on and say, oh, I'm good, I'm not going to do it anymore. There might be some real underlying things that you have to address. And so be aware of that, get help for those things. And if you want more information about that, you can click on this link right there. If you suspect that you may have been abused or are in an abusive situation, these are the steps that you can take. Notice the warning signs of abuse for what they are. Don't try to excuse the behavior of the person who's being abusive. Notice exactly the difference between an unhealthy relationship and an abusive relationship and understand those behaviors as warning signs to you. Number 2 is realize that you deserve to be treated well. You can refer back to this dating bill of rights for I statements of realizing, no, I do deserve to have all these things and I do deserve to live in a healthy relationship. Number 3 is to document the warning signs of dating abuse in a journal or maybe an iPhone note. Record the dates and the times and the descriptions of the behavior. If there is physical evidence of abuse, it's very important that you take clear pictures and document that as well. And this link can show you how to more accurately do that. Number 4 is to create and implement a safety plan, which essentially is a way of getting out of this abusive situation without further harm happening. It can be a very complicated thing to get out of an abusive relationship once you realize what's going on. And so creating a safety plan with someone that you know and trust outside of the relationship can be very helpful. And there's more information about that at this link. But what if you're in that third role? What if you are a bystander and you notice that something abusive might be going on? In that case, this is what you can do. If you suspect that someone you know is in an abusive situation, the first thing is that you can acknowledge to them that they are in a difficult and scary situation. If somebody comes to you and tells you or you notice that they're in an abusive situation, sometimes just by acknowledging and noticing it can help them feel less crazy and make them feel as though they are not alone in feeling like something is messed up. Number 2 is to be supportive and listen, all right? Don't try to fix it necessarily. Don't try to give too much advice at first. Just listen to them and be a safe place for them to vent and for them to tell you about what's going on. In this case, being a safe person means being non-judgmental. It might be easy for somebody who is a bystander to look at an abusive situation and just say, why don't you just get out? Why don't you just dump him? Why don't you just leave? And while that may make sense to you outside of the relationship, it may not be that simple for the person that is actually in that relationship. And so being judgmental is not necessarily going to be helpful to them because they're already probably dealing with a lot of negative emotions from their relationship. But being non-judgmental in these situations is a very important part of being supportive and listening. Remember that you cannot rescue them yourself. There's nothing really that you can actually control to get them out of this situation. But what you can do is you can help them develop one of those safety plans that we were talking about on the last slide. You can be a rational voice when they are all sorts of in their emotions to help them get out of the situation themselves. And finally, understand that you are not necessarily an expert on these things, but you can encourage them to talk to people who are. That means therapists, that can mean counselors, other trusted adults, but anybody who can help them with things that you might have limitations on. This graphic right here gives some great examples on what you can say if someone comes to you and says that they were abused. Remember that the first step is always to listen, and you start with telling them that you believe them. Again, they can feel like they're crazy or that nobody's going to believe them, and so just giving them that affirmation can be huge at first. But you can also say things like, it's not your fault, I want you to be safe, you don't deserve this, you deserve to be treated with respect. You can assure them that this is important, that it is a big deal. You can ask them what they need. Make sure that they know that you are glad that they told you. Tell them that you're here if they need to talk or if they need anything. And of course, thank them for trusting you as a safe person to give this information to. And that is all the information that I have over dating violence. Of course, there is a lot more information out there. Almost all of the points that I make in this video come from loveisrespect.org. There's also the National Domestic Violence Hotline that can connect you to some resources. And we also have our counseling team here locally at WT White or any other trusted adult. And like I said, this entire slideshow is interactive. Everything underlined is a link to more information. And I also have all of these slides in Spanish as well. You can find all of these resources and more in our new Mental Health Services tab on Longhorn Country. I'm still working on it, but it gives information to contact Miss Pott, Miss Hill, and Miss Johnson in case you need them. It also includes the information for suicide awareness, which we went over earlier in this year. And this video, along with the slides that I used, are going to be there as well. And that is all from me for today. You can look through some of those resources, go to those websites linked in the slides if you'd like to learn more. I hope that you learned a lot and feel more equipped to recognize the differences between healthy, unhealthy, and abusive behaviors in relationships. Be good to yourself and others, and I will see you real soon.